Satisfactory is an open-world, first-person factory builder game that has you solve logistical and automation problems starting from very simplistic trivia steps, then to more complex problems with more variables to consider, and finally to very complex with a lot of moving parts to consider and manage. Join me on this adventure as we go from simplistic to super complex and see if we can grow our brains a little bigger, shall we? Okay, let's start with this. You start the game by manually crafting iron plates, rods, and screws. Simple enough, right? No need for power or input balancing. You hand feed a couple of smelters one at a time. How is this my brain getting bigger, you ask? You'll find out in a while. Let's enjoy the ride for now, okay? Then you automate the plates and rods with a couple of constructors with some power generated from burning leaves and wood. Now power has entered the picture. You need to supply power to keep things running smoothly. Now you need to automate reinforced iron plates and rotors, which require assemblers, which take two inputs rather than one in case of the constructor. Suddenly the belting and the spaghetti intensifies. Yes, it does. Also, it's time to think about input balancing. Consider a reinforced iron plate assembler. You see, if one resource, say iron plates, is fed properly, but the other required resource, screws, are insufficient, then the machine halts on the screws. The screws are the limiting factor to the machine working at 100% efficiency. Increase the screws production and now your machine is overfed, runs at 100% efficiency, but the plates and screws back up, and suddenly your screw and rod constructors and smelters and miners are running at less than 100%. Quite a doozy, eh? Balancing out the resources. With the increase in number of machines and thereby the scale of our mining and processing operations, burning biofuel is no longer a viable option. So now we have to look for a more automatable source of power to fuel our ever-hungry and ever-growing mess of constructors, miners, and assemblers. Automated power requires getting two new resources we've never seen before from faraway locations and bringing them together to create coal power. But here's the catch. Remember before, when running assemblers, even if you underfed your assembler and it ran at less than 100% efficiency, no harm was done, right? But this time with coal power, you absolutely need that 100% efficiency. Otherwise, you'll hear that beautiful sound with the fuse tripping as your consumption exceeds your production. So keeping your coal generators well fed with coal and the new pain in the ass water resources is mandatory. You've come a long way from crafting things by hand without a care for power supply or inputs, but you still a ways to go. Next comes steel production, which is of similar complexity as coal power in that it requires coal and iron to be brought together to make steel, and using that with previously, hopefully, mastered reinforced iron plates and rotors to make new stuff like encased industrial beams, stators, and motors. With these, the game tests your ability to automate construction of project assembly parts that require all of the previous items to come together to unlock the next beast we're going to discuss, and that is crude oil. That's right, crude oil. So you mastered handling dozens of smelters, foundries, constructors, and assemblers, eh? Now it's time for byproducts. Yes, refineries produce a new type of resource considered as byproducts. Processing crude oil into plastic, for instance, produces not only plastic but heavy oil residue as well, which if not handled properly, will clog up your refinery and keep it from making any more plastic. Processing crude oil into plastic or rubber and processing the byproduct heavy oil residue into fuel seems like a no-brainer, but here's the catch. If your fuel generators do not consume all the fuel, then the fuel in the fuel refinery backs up, which in turn causes your heavy oil residue to back up, which again in turn stops your plastic or rubber production, thereby halting all of your computer production. Getting pretty complex now, wouldn't you agree? You feel your brain about to explode? That's good, cause it's a sign that it is growing bigger by the minute. As you've noticed, we've gone significantly higher up on the scale of complexity as we started from manual crafting to single input automation to double input automation to balancing out resources and byproducts. Now, it's finally time for aluminum processing. which is a huge beast in itself. First things first, this process demands quite a collection of resources: bauxite ore, lots of water, quartz, coal, and copper ingots, all of which need to be brought in together via conveyor belts, pipes, vehicles, trains, what have you. Every step has a byproduct that is required to be handled by collecting for later or by looping back to the beginning. As you can see, bauxite with water gets refined into alumina solution with silica as byproduct. Then, alumina solution with coal gets refined into aluminum scrap with water as byproduct. Next, aluminum scrap enters the foundry along with previously produced and elsewhere produced silica to give aluminum ingots, which finally get combined with copper ingots in another foundry to produce alclad aluminum sheets. And that's aluminum processing in a nutshell, folks. Easier said than done, not gonna lie. A confusing series of refineries and other machines later will see you collecting precious aluminum casing and sheets as your end reward. What a complex beast, eh? So, if you're still here with me, then you'll be able to appreciate the journey along the scale of complexity we've enjoyed in our time in Satisfactory. I know the game gets even more complex as we go for uranium processing and then plutonium processing, but this is it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video essay. Let me know your thoughts on what else complexity you enjoyed of this wonderful game. I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys. Pioneers, stay efficient!